Stop. Don't scroll past this. Because the fact that you're hearing these words at this exact microsecond isn't a glitch in the YouTube algorithm. And it's not a random coincidence. It is a high-stakes, divine alignment tailored specifically for your soul's frequency. Imagine, for a moment, a 32-year-old man named Ethan sitting in a quiet, dimly lit diner in rural Montana. Outside, the snow is falling in heavy, silent sheets, covering the vast 20,000-acre valley in white. Ethan is staring at his coffee, feeling like his life is stuck in a permanent winter. He's talented. He's worked harder than anyone he knows, yet he feels like he's running on a treadmill that's slowly burning out. He whispered a question to the empty air last night. Is anyone actually watching? Does this struggle even matter? If Ethan had seen this message yesterday, he wouldn't have been ready. His heart was still too hardened by the cold. If he waits until tomorrow, the window for the shift might already be closing. But he is seeing it now, and so are you. You are here because your spirit has reached a critical boiling point. You've felt that strange, underlying tension lately, that feeling that the world is moving at 100 miles per hour while you are trapped in a glass box, watching everyone else cross the finish line. You've felt the exhaustion that sleep can't fix. You've questioned if the creator of the universe somehow lost your GPS coordinates in the middle of your journey. But I am here as your briefing officer to tell you, you are not forgotten. You are not failing, and you are certainly not stuck. You have been placed in a strategic divine holding pattern. The control tower has finally cleared the runway, and your permission to land is embedded within the very fabric of this message. Only the top 1% of spiritual seekers possess the refined sensitivity to tell the difference between a tragic delay and a calculated setup. If your eyes are still fixed on this screen, you are that 1%. Lock your focus, because the briefing you've been waiting for starts right now. I want you to do something with me. Right where you are, whether you're commuting on the subway in New York, sitting in your backyard in suburban Texas, or lying in bed in a small town in Georgia, I want you to simply observe your breath. Don't try to be a monk about it. Just notice it. Where does that air stop when you inhale? If you're like the thousands of other chosen ones currently under high pressure, that breath is stopping right at your collarbone. It's shallow, it's tight, it's trapped. You might not even realize it, but you have been bracing your body for months. You are breathing like someone who has spent too much time in a hospital waiting room, terrified that the moment they look away, the doctor will call their name and they'll miss their only chance. This isn't just a biological habit. It is a spiritual manifestation of bracing for impact. You've been disappointed so many times. You've seen so many almosts turn into not quites, that your soul has instinctively curled into a defensive ball. You are waiting for the other shoe to drop. You are waiting for the bad news because the good news has felt like a stranger for far too long. This shallow, restricted breath is the very first somatic signature that you have entered the void. Let's be brutally honest about your current reality. You feel like a high-performance, 700 horsepower Shelby Mustang stuck in bumper-to-bumper traffic on the 405 inches Los Angeles. The engine is screaming. The potential is immense. You know what you're capable of. You can feel the fire in your veins, the desire to move, to build, to lead, to create. But every time you try to hit the gas, the environment around you is gridlocked. You're revving the engine in neutral, and the heat is starting to smoke under the hood. This leads to what I call the driveway pause. You know this moment intimately. It's that evening when you finally pull into your driveway after a long day of pretending. You park the car, you turn off the ignition, but you don't get out. You just sit there in the dark for 5, maybe 10 minutes, staring at the steering wheel. The silence is deafening. In those minutes, you aren't just resting. You are desperately trying to switch masks. You are gathering every scrap of leftover emotional energy just to walk through that front door and be the strong one, the stable one, the provider, or the rock for your comings. Family. Inside, you feel like a sandcastle in high tide, crumbling grain by grain, but you can't let them see it. And then comes the digital salt in the wound. You open your phone and scroll through a feed that feels like a highlight reel of your own unfulfilled dreams. You see people with half your integrity, a fraction of your work ethic, and almost none of your talent, celebrating the very breakthroughs you've been crying out for. You see the engagement rings, the new house keys, the promotion announcements, and that dark, jagged thought whispers in your ear, the one you'd never admit to anyone. Why them? Why is their road paved with gold while my path is a minefield? Why does it seem like the people who ignore God are winning, while I, who has sacrificed everything, am being treated like an afterthought? You feel like a permanent spectator in a game you were born to play. You're benched, watching the clock tick down, wondering if the coach even remembers your name on the roster. But hear me, chosen one, and hear me well. That feeling of being stuck, that isolation, that sense that your prayers are hitting a brass ceiling and bouncing back at you, it is an optical illusion. It is a psychological smokescreen crafted by the enemy to make you abort your mission exactly 3 seconds before the countdown hits 0. You have looked at this season and labeled it stagnation. You've looked at the silence and called it rejection. But heaven has a completely different name for this moment in your life. To understand why your world has gone quiet and why the heat has turned up, we have to look at the metallurgical blueprint of your soul. We have to understand why you are being smelted rather than just tested. Because what you're feeling in your chest right now, that intense pressure that feels like it's going to break you, is actually the only way to expand your capacity for the weight of the glory that is about to land on your life. You aren't just waiting in a line, you are being forged in a furnace. And to understand the magnitude of what this refining process is actually doing to your future, we have to look at the ancient science of the great hiding, and why God hides his most dangerous weapons right before he changes the course of history. You're still here, which means your soul has already recognized the frequency of this message. Your mind might be questioning it, but that stirring in your gut, that's the 1% in you waking up. Now, I want to take you deeper into the furnace. We need to talk about why you feel like you're being crushed and why heaven has a completely different name for your current disaster. To understand your reality, we have to look at the metallurgical blueprint of a man who sat exactly where you are sitting. Let's talk about a 4-year-old named Jackson, living in a small, gritty apartment in the heart of Detroit. Jackson is a visionary. He's got a heart for his community, a mind for innovation, and a spirit that feels like it was born for the palace. But right now, his reality looks nothing like a palace. He's working a dead-end job, his car just got repossessed, and his friends have all disappeared now that he's no longer the life of the party. He feels invisible. He feels like he's in a pit. But there is a verse in the ancient scrolls, Psalm 105-19, that explains Jackson's life and yours with terrifying precision. It says, "Until the time that his word came to pass, the word of the Lord tested him." Now, let me pull back the curtain on that word, tested, because in our modern American English, it's too polite. It sounds like a multiple-choice exam you take in a quiet classroom. But the original Hebrew word is saraf, and in the world of metallurgy, saraf is a violent, beautiful, and intense process. It means to smelt. It means to refine. It means to take a raw, impure piece of gold, throw it into a crucible, and crank the thermostat up to 2,000 degrees Fahrenheit until the metal liquefies. When gold is in the saraf fire, everything that isn't gold, the dross, the impurities, the fakes, floats to the surface so the goldsmith can skim it off. Chosen one, look at your life over the last 6 months. Has it felt like the heat has been turned up to an unbearable degree? Have you lost things you thought you needed? Have people you relied on walked away? That isn't because God has forgotten you in that apartment or that office cubicle. It's because His hand is on the thermostat. You've been praying for a palace destiny while living in a pit reality, and that creates a friction, a heat, and a pressure that feels like it's killing you. But hear me, it's not killing you. It is saraf. It is refining you. You are being smelted because the impurities of your past, your need for human validation, your reliance on your own bank account, your addiction to the applause of people who don't even know your true name. All of that has to be burned away before you can carry the weight of what's coming next. You think you're failing because you aren't moving forward externally. You look at your peers in New York or Miami who are moving at 80 miles per hour, and you feel like you're stuck in the mud. But internally, under the surface, the saraf process is expanding your capacity. Think about the engineering behind a skyscraper like the Willis Tower in Chicago. To build something that reaches that high into the clouds, the architects have to dig a foundation that is 10 times deeper and darker than a foundation for a suburban house. Right now, you are being dug out. You are being hollowed out. And that hollowing feels like emptiness. It feels like loss. It feels like you're being buried alive. But you cannot build a skyscraper on a surface-level foundation. The depth of your current struggle, the sheer intensity of the nothingness you feel right now, is the only accurate predictor of the height of the promotion that is about to manifest in your life. If you are feeling that pressure in your chest, if you are feeling the heat of frustration, I need you to reframe it right this second. Do not call it anxiety. Call it refinement. Do not call it being stuck. Call it construction. But there is an even deeper operation happening in your life, one that is reserved only for the most dangerous weapons in the divine arsenal. The enemy wants you to believe you've been rejected and left behind. But God is actually performing a strategic maneuver that I call the Great Hiding. You see, you aren't lost. You are hidden. And in the kingdom of heaven, there is a massive difference between being ignored and being concealed. Think of it through the lens of physics. If you are an archer and you want your arrow to fly forward with maximum bone-shattering impact, what is the very first thing you have to do? You don't just throw it. You pull it backward. And the further back you want that arrow to fly, the more tension you have to apply. The more you have to pull it away from the target. To the arrow, that backward motion feels like a setback. It feels like it's being restricted. It feels like it's moving in the wrong direction. The arrow might be thinking, I should be at the target by now. Why am I being held down? Tai sao moi tu lai tre nen kung tung tenai. But the archer knows that the backward motion is the accumulation of power. The tension is the storage of potential energy. Chosen one, you are being drawn back. The frustration you feel while watching others fly past you on social media is simply the potential energy being stored up for your release. God is hiding you in what the ancient texts call the cleft of the rock. Remember Moses? When he asked to see God's glory, God didn't put him on a stage in front of the Israelites. He said, I will put you in a cleft of the rock and cover you with my hand. To protect Moses from being consumed by the sheer weight of that glory, God had to hide him in a dark, confined, and quiet space. Right now, your world has gone quiet. Your phone isn't ringing like it used to. The opportunities you thought you wanted have dried up. You feel a heavy hand covering you, stopping you from moving, and you've been blaming the enemy for blocking you. But look closer. That isn't the hand of a demon. That is the hand of the Father covering you. He is hiding you because the level of influence, the level of wealth, and the level of spiritual authority He is about to release through you is so heavy that if you were exposed to it before the seraph process was finished, before your character was solidified, it would destroy you. He isn't hiding you from your destiny. He is hiding you for your destiny. But I know the fear that keeps you awake at 3 a.m. in the silence of your room. It's the fear of the ticking clock. You look at the calendar and see another year wasted. This brings us to a specific code that has been misunderstood for generations, and we need to crack it right now so your soul can finally breathe. Because there is a secret dimension to waiting that changes the very laws of time. And if you don't understand the difference between Maha and Aka, you might just walk out of the furnace before the gold is pure. We are about to step into the time sink portion of this briefing, where I'll show you exactly why God is never late, even when the deadline has passed. Take a breath. I need you to stay locked in right now because we are entering the most critical part of this briefing. We've talked about the fire and the hiding, but I know the question that is currently gnawing at the back of your mind, like a relentless New England winter. It's the fear that time is simply running out. You look at the calendar in your kitchen, you check your age on your driver's license, and you see the years ticking by like a countdown to nowhere. This is the 3 a.m. panic, the cold, hard realization that you are not where you thought you'd be by now. Let's look at a 8-year-old woman named Sarah, living in a quiet suburb of Nashville. Sarah has a calling for music and healing, a dream that's been burning in her soul since she was a teenager in Alabama. But right now, she's spent the last 5 years working as a receptionist, watching the music city thrive around her, while her own songs sit gathering dust in a notebook. She sees 2 two-year-olds on TikTok getting the record deals she prayed for. She looks at the mirror and thinks, "The window is closed. I'm too old. God has missed my deadline." If that is you, if you feel like the clock is your greatest enemy, we need to correct a massive misunderstanding right now. There is a famous verse in the book of Habakkuk, chapter 2, verse 3, that people love to put on coffee mugs, but they've been reading it wrong for decades. It says, "For the vision is yet for an appointed time. Though it tarry, wait for it, because it will surely come. It will not tarry." In our modern American English, that sounds like a contradiction. If it tarries, wait for it, but it won't tarry? It sounds like God is playing games with your schedule. But the original Hebrew text reveals a secret dimension that will allow your soul to finally stop hyperventilating. You see, the first time the word tarry is used, though it tarry, the word is maha. In Hebrew, maha doesn't mean to be late. It means to linger, to hesitate, or to cause questioning. It refers to a period where the vision seems to be loitering, making you scratch your head and ask, "Did I hear God right?" But the second time the word is used, "it will not tarry," the Hebrew word changes completely to akka, and akka means to miss an appointment or to fall behind a deadline. Do you see the shift? Heaven is telling you, the vision might maha. It might linger. It might cause you to question everything. It might feel like it's taking forever while you're sitting in that Nashville traffic or that Florida office. But by the authority of the throne, it will not, aka, it will not miss its scheduled rendezvous with your reality. God operates on a moed, an appointed, fixed encounter. If you have a meeting at 5 p.m. and you arrive at 4 p.m., the meeting isn't late. You're just waiting for the clock to strike the hour. You aren't behind. You are simply in the gap between your arrival and the moed. However, I must issue a high-level warning, because there is a very real danger in this gap. Not every delay in your life is a divine hiding place. Sometimes, the resistance you feel isn't God covering you. It's a demonic block trying to imprison you. And if you don't know the difference, you'll react the wrong way. If you fight God's hiding, you're rebelling against your own protection. But if you're being blocked by the enemy and you just sit and wait, you're allowing a thief to steal your season. So, how do you distinguish between the two? How do you know if you're being hidden or if you're being blocked? I want you to mentally audit your last 6 months as I reveal the 3 specific signs. The first sign that you are being hidden by God is what I call illogical peace. Think about a hurricane hitting the coast of the Carolinas. On the outside, 120 miles per hour's winds are ripping roofs off houses. It's violent, it's loud, it's chaotic. But in the dead center, the eye of the storm, it is perfectly, hauntingly still. If the enemy were truly blocking you, your spirit would feel frantic. You'd feel a driving, fearful need to kick down doors and manipulate people. You'd be operating out of a scarcity panic. But when God hides you, even when your bank account is low, even when you're lonely, even when the logic of your life says you should be screaming deep down in your gut, there is a strange, heavy anchor of peace. Your brain is saying, panic, but your spirit is sitting in a chair, calm, saying, I am safe. If you felt a calm you can't explain amidst a storm you can't control, that's the fingerprint of the Father. He has placed you in the eye. The second sign is invisible provision, or what I call the Cherith principle. When God hid the prophet Elijah by the brook Cherith during a famine, Elijah didn't have a grocery store or a steady paycheck. He was cut off from the economic system of the day. But he didn't starve. God commanded raven scavengers that naturally steal food to bring him bread and meat every morning. Look at your life. You might not be thriving yet. You might not have the surplus you want. But have you missed a meal? Has the floor fallen out from under you? Just when you thought you'd go under, did a random check show up? Did a stranger help you? Did a bill get pushed back? That is raven provision. If the enemy were blocking you, he would try to starve you out completely. But if you're seeing just enough manna for the day arriving in ways you didn't plan, that is proof you are in the hiding place. He is sustaining you in secret, so you don't learn to depend on the world's systems. But there is a third sign, and this is the one that usually makes chosen ones quit right before the door opens. It is the most painful sign of all. It's the sign of internal expansion against external restriction. Imagine a seed buried in the dark soil of an Ohio farm. Inside that seed, life is expanding. The DNA is activating. The root is pushing out. The internal pressure is immense because the life force is getting bigger. But the shell, the environment, is staying the same size. Eventually, the shell has to crack because the life inside is too big for the container. This is exactly what you are feeling. You feel like you've outgrown your life. You walk into your workplace, or you talk to friends you've known for a decade, and suddenly everything feels small. The conversations feel superficial. The rooms feel cramped. You feel like a giant trying to live in a dollhouse. This isn't arrogance. It's expansion. God has enlarged your spirit in the dark, but He hasn't changed your shell yet. This creates a holy frustration. You feel isolated, not because you're weird, but because you are vibrating at a frequency your current environment can no longer support. If the enemy were blocking you, you would feel shrunken and defeated. Lambda, lambda, you don't feel weak. You feel powerful, but contained. You feel like a thoroughbred racehorse, locked in a starting gate at the Kentucky Derby, kicking against the steel. That kicking is the proof of your readiness. So, what do you do with this energy? If you mismanage this pressure, you will make the mistake of trying to help God out by forcing a door that isn't ready. To prevent you from birthing a shortcut that will only lead to more pain, you must activate a specific spiritual protocol starting today. I call it the Divine Pause Protocol. This isn't just a suggestion, it's the survival manual for your transition. And as we move into the next section, I'm going to show you the 3 components of this protocol, including the 3-day silence rule that saved a man's career and doubled his destiny. Because if you can master your mouth and your circle in the next 40 days, you will watch the shell of your old life shatter to make room for the skyscraper you were built to be. Here is the continuation and conclusion of your story, following the American narrative style and the 1,200-word requirement per section. You are standing at the threshold of the most dangerous and most rewarding phase of your journey. Your spirit is expanding. The heat of the furnace is at its peak, and you can feel the starting gate of your old life beginning to tremble. But this is exactly where many chosen ones self-sabotage. When the pressure of the seed becomes too much to bear, the temptation to force the breakthrough becomes overwhelming. Let's look at a 4 or 5-year-old engineer named David in Houston, Texas. David had been in the hiding place for 18 months after a corporate merger left him jobless. He was a high-level problem solver, a man used to being in control. But in the silence of his unemployment, he felt the Sarah fire burning away his ego. Just as David reached his breaking point, he got a phone call. It was a job offer from a rival firm, decent pay, but the company culture was toxic, and the role was 3 steps below his actual capability. David's logical mind screamed, "Take it! You have a mortgage. You have a family in Texas to feed." But his spirit felt a check, a cold, heavy weight that said, "Not this." This is where David had to implement the Divine Pause Protocol. The first component of this protocol is the command to stop forcing doors. Listen to me closely. If you have to manipulate the conversation, if you have to chase the person down, if you have to compromise your integrity just to get an in, then that door is not from God. When heaven opens a door in the Kairos timeline, it doesn't just budge, it swings wide. David understood that the energy he spent trying to pry open a good door was the very energy he would need to walk through the best one. He stepped back. He let the handle go. The second component is the circle audit. Because you are expanding, you can no longer afford to share your skyscraper dreams with people who have tent mindsets. When David told his old colleagues about his refusal to take the safe job, they laughed. They told him he was being arrogant. They were small minds. He had to practice strategic silence. He stopped giving his vision to people who didn't have the capacity to protect it. Your dream is a seed. It needs the darkness of the soil to grow, not the constant, scorching light of public opinion. The third, and most practical component, is the 3-day silence rule. This is what saved David's career. When that good enough job offer came, David didn't say yes or no. He asked for 72 hours. He took that offer into the secret place. By the second day, the initial excitement of safety turned into a deep sense of anxiety. He realized it was a counterfeit opportunity designed to lock him into a lower level of existence. He called them back and said no. He turned down the only lifeline he had. His family thought he was insane, but exactly 90 days later, David's phone rang again. It was a former colleague who had started a revolutionary startup. They didn't want him as an employee. They wanted him as a partner with equity. The salary was double what he had refused, and the mission aligned with his soul. Because David respected the protocol, he was available when the moed, the appointed time, finally arrived. If you are in that 72-hour window right now, stop talking. Stop trying to fix it. Your silence is your power. You are not losing time. You are ensuring that you don't build an Ishmael while heaven is trying to deliver your Isaac. As we reach the final stage of this briefing, we must confront the shadow that follows every chosen one, the fear of damage. You look at the years Sarah spent in Nashville, or David spent in Houston, and you think, even if the breakthrough comes, I've lost so much. I'm too far behind. I need to drag this shadow into the light. This fear tells you that God has a limited supply of blessings, and He ran out right before He got to you. It makes you feel like expired goods. When you see someone else on Instagram celebrating their win, your stomach drops not out of jealousy, but out of the grief of the gap. You are mourning the life you think you missed. But here is the revelation that will break the spirit of delay off your life. God does not live in Chronos. Chronos is the Greek word for chronological, sequential time. Tick-tock, linear, 1 second after another. In Chronos, if you lose 5 years, they are gone forever. But God operates in Kairos. Kairos is not about minutes. It's about moments. It's not about duration. It's about dimension. Chronos is horizontal, but Kairos is vertical. It is when heaven strikes earth and the laws of physics are suspended. There is a Greek word in Ephesians 5:16, exagorazo. It means to redeem the time. In the ancient world, this was a commercial term used in slave markets. It meant to pay a ransom to buy someone out of bondage. When God says He will redeem your time, He is saying, I am going into the slave market of your past, into the years stolen by depression, by that bad divorce in Georgia, by that failed business in New York, and I am buying them back. God isn't just going to catch you up. He is going to reinsert those lost years into your future with exponential interest. Think of the physics of a slingshot once more. The further back David was pulled, the faster he flew. When David finally got that partnership, he accomplished more in 6 months than his peers had in 6 years. That is Kairos math. 1 plus 1 doesn't equal 2 inches this dimension. It equals 1,000. In these next 40 days, you must become a high-value target for focus. The enemy knows he cannot stop your Kairos launch, so he will send time thieves. He will send the nostalgia trap, an ex-lover or a toxic friend from your past, who suddenly texts you, "I miss you." He will send the emergency distraction, small fires in your family, or car troubles that try to steal your inner peace. And he will send the fatigue spirit, that heavy fog that makes you want to sleep the moment you try to work on your vision. Recognize them. Block them. Hold your time shield high. You are not a broken vessel. You are a refined weapon. The pressure you feel in your chest right now is the elastic of the slingshot about to snap forward. Your wait is over. Your smelting is complete. The archer is releasing his grip. The story of Ethan, Sarah, Jackson, and David is the story of every soul destined for a massive shift. The core meaning is this: your delay was never a denial. It was a strategic concealment. Heaven hid you to protect you from a level of glory you weren't yet strong enough to carry. The smelting you endured wasn't meant to destroy you, but to ensure that when the world finally sees you, they see the pure gold of your character, not just the tinsel of your talent. The lessons. Breath is your barometer. If you are breathing shallow, you are in survival mode. Take your breath back to take your power back. Refuse the good for the best. Don't birth an Ishmael out of panic. If the door feels forced, let it go. Respect the hiding. Being invisible is a mercy, not a punishment. Use the quiet to build your foundation deep. Trust Kairos over Chronos. You are never too old or too late in God's timeline. One moment of divine acceleration can outrun a decade of human striving. If this message resonated with your spirit, and you can feel the 40-day countdown beginning in your life, please comment with the number 9. If you feel this didn't quite hit the home run for you, or you'd like to see more grit and different topics, press 0 so I can improve and bring you more compelling content. Or simply leave a comment sharing your own Pit to Palace story. We read them all to understand your perspective. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Your support is the fuel that gives me the motivation to keep producing these spiritual briefings for you.